broken things can become a blessing if you let God do the mending. Welcome to Broken to be Blessed Network, where dynamic women will share their experiences that will inspire, and experiences that have turned out to be a blessing. Now here's your host, Samantha McNeil.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Broken to be Blessed Network. I am so happy and elated to have you sharing with us each week, each Sunday. And yes, this week is going to be season final. Yes, it's going to be the final, and then we're going to break, and then we are going to see us back in November for season 3. But thank you so much. Continue to share, tell others, and subscribe so that we can build a great network that we're building over here. Thank you so much. Today, I have with me yet another wonderful woman that's going to share her journey with us. And you know, I'm excited as much as you are excited to hear these inspiration and powerful testimonies and journey. As you always said, broken things can become a blessing if we let God do the mending. I'm ready for my guest, and I know you are too.
Joining us on set today is Georgina Saunderson-Hatch, a cosmetologist and co-owner of the Jamaican Door. She has been married for 8 years to her amazing husband. Together, they have 2 beautiful children, Carlin Jr., CJ. Her son is 7 years old, and her daughter Phoenix is 8 years old. She is from Portmore, Jamaica, and have been living in the USA for the past 9 years. Help me welcome today to Broken to be Blessed Network, Georgina Saunderson-Hatch.
Hello, Georgina. How are you doing today?
Hi, Samantha. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Sister Bay, Wisconsin. I'm doing amazing.
Awesome, 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 awesome. And I'm really happy to have you share with us today on Broken to be Blessed Network.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. So before we get into all the lovely inspiration and journey, we like to get to know our guests and let our audience know and feel us and know that we are all excited and bubbly at times. Yes. So, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food, oh gosh, anything um Jamaican. So oxtail with rice and peas. I love a good curry goat, and anytime I can get brown stew chicken, I am ready for it. Those are my favorites.
Awesome. I tell you, that oxtail. Oh my God. I tell you something. Mm-mm-mm. All right,
Mhm.
Georgina. So, what do you do for fun?
For fun, anything that has to do with beauty, I am all about it. I love makeup. I love hair. My profession is that I'm a cosmetologist, which is weird because I studied travel tourism and entertainment management and then somehow ended up here. But I love beauty. I love modeling. Um, for fun, listen, I will just hang out at home and just watch TV all day.
Okay, cool. So, how is it being a mom? I know you have a son and a daughter. How is it? They're close in age. So, how is it balancing everything? And a boy different from a girl.
Yeah, so Phoenix is 8 years old. CJ is 7 years old. They were born 1 year, 1 month apart. Um, gosh, it's very their personalities. My daughter, she battles with me all the time, and then my son, on the other hand, oh, you're so beautiful, mommy, and he always hugs me. He just loves hard. So it's been quite the journey. Like every minute you question yourself, am I doing this right? And then another moment you're just like praying that you get this, in the right motion at some point. And then, you pray that someday when they get to be 18 and older, you can say, well, I guess I didn't mess them up too bad.
All right. Can I tell you? Oh my God. Awesome. Awesome. Just awesome. But I know it's a wonderful feeling being a mom and, getting little ones to inspire and to grow and all of that.
Yep.
So it was wonderful getting to know Georgina a little bit. And it's now time for her journey. And it's over to you, Georgina.
So, for me, born and raised in Jamaica, good old Portmore, St. Catherine. I came to the United States, backtrack a little bit. It's me, my mother, my sister that grew up together. My father was always in the picture, but he has another family. And therein I have my brother. So jumping forward, I came to the United States about 9 years ago. Met my husband here. He's born and raised in this community that we live, and got married. We've had two children, Phoenix, who's 8, CJ, who's 7. Both my children have special abilities. Phoenix is diagnosed with an ultra rare syndrome called Marshall Smith syndrome, and CJ is diagnosed with ADHD and battles with depression. Me and my husband have been married for 8 years now, and yeah, we together we own a business. It's a full-time job taking care of 2 kids with special abilities, and aside from that, he works as a carpenter, and I also work as a cosmetologist. So I mean, that's a stretch of us so far.
Awesome, awesome. And you have already mentioned that it's already a full-time job doing all of that. And we want you to share with us the journey with your daughter. I didn't even realize or know that your son too. And it really, I think as you mentioned, we want to hear a little about him, especially the aspect with the two, because the ADHD is up and then the depression is down. So it's always, we would want to hear that aspect too. So go ahead and share with us what it was like during pregnancy and how did you know that they had these abilities and how you cope, how you deal, what your daily routine with them are, if they have to go, what they do for medical, what all of those stuff.
So for Phoenix came first, of course. So Phoenix, we did not know there was anything different. I had a perfectly normal pregnancy all the way up until delivery. She came out, she was born 5 pounds, 6 ounces. I was actually induced with her. After she was born, though, they're supposed to double their birth weight by a few weeks or so. We kept going back to the doctor. She would actually lose weight, and 5 pounds, 6 ounces is already pretty tiny. No answers really from the doctor. A little bit of background of where we live. We live in a pretty small town. To get to our very first hospital is about 35 minutes drive. To get to a major hospital is 3 hours drive. So she was born at this smaller hospital. I would tell them that it's hard because when I feed her, she doesn't seem to be full. She's also my firstborn, so I had no real idea as to what to do. But fast forward 3 months in, they finally listened to me and sent us to the bigger hospital, the children's hospital that's 3 hours away for referral. When they sent us for the referral, we saw a geneticist, we saw a ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they said they looked her over. They said, "We'll see you in a few weeks when we figure out what's going on." We drove home the 3 hours, and me and my husband, we pull up to the house and we get a call from the hospital, and they say, "Hey, so we're gonna need you to come back." And I think, well, we are 3 hours away. And they said, "Well, first thing in the morning then." We went back first thing in the morning, and I have to say that was the whirlwind of diagnosis for my daughter. That was the whirlwind of surgeries, just about everything that just came crashing down. She was admitted and taken in for surgery for her very first one, which was her tracheostomy. So she uses a tube in her neck called a tracheostomy, and that's what she breathes through. She was also given a G tube, which sits in her belly, and that makes sure that she gets all the nutrition that she needs. So those were the first two. And honestly, half of the conversation with the doctors prior to that one, I don't even remember. I totally checked out. And then so that started her journey. And then for my son, with him being born after a child with such a rare diagnosis, that pregnancy was pretty invasive in the beginning. They wanted to do amniocentesis and things to check if anything is different about him. I declined all of those because it's like, it doesn't change anything. I'll deliver him and we'll deal with whatever comes. He had a pretty normal pregnancy, except for I had low amniotic fluid with him. The day that I delivered him, we went to church that morning and we came home. My husband went to work in the evening, and I'm on the couch, just me and Phoenix, and my back was just hurting. And because they had me coming in every week for the low amniotic fluid just to check, I called my husband's workplace. His manager at the time answered. She goes, "Okay, I'll tell him." And he came home like 5 minutes later. We went to the hospital and they said, "Oh, you're in labor, actually." So that, I was actually in active labor. They gave me medicines, and actually with the anesthesiologist, he wasn't listening to me when I told him, I was shaking, I was shivering. He was instead very rude. He was like, "Well, you have to understand that I'm in your spine. You need to stop shaking." And if he had listened, he would have known that my blood pressure was pretty low. And I had a terrible reaction when he gave me my epidural. They laid me back and I stopped breathing. And it took a couple rounds of them giving me epi to bring me back. So that was a whole drama in itself. But I delivered CJ, and funny enough, he was also 5 pounds 6 ounces at birth. But he had all the rolls and chunks like a little Michelin baby. And from there, though, he developed quite fine. The one thing we started to notice is that he would not use words. He would use sign language. It wasn't super strange to me, however, because sign language was one of the main languages in our house because we had started pretty early with Phoenix. But he would also, when he started going to daycare, he would play, but he wouldn't play with other kids. He'd play around them, but he didn't want to be with them. As a baby, he didn't want me to hold him. He would rather just be in his little rocker all by himself, which is tough because you want to bond with your
So
child.
how did you know that he didn't want you to hold him?
He would just create the biggest fuss as a newborn, just the biggest fuss when you hold him. As soon as you put him down, though, he's fine. He's like, "Don't touch me. I'm good." I still remember to this day when he actually allowed Phoenix's nurse to hold him for a solid 20 minutes. We were all just shocked. So as time went on, at the daycare center, they finally had a meeting with us and they said, he isn't using words like the rest of his peers. We think something, may be off, and we think you should check that out. Funny enough, how the mind works, I had forgotten that in the search for Phoenix's diagnosis, they had found that she had a chromosome microdeletion, which was totally unrelated to her diagnosis of Marshall-Smith syndrome. When CJ was born, they also did some tests on him, and they found that same chromosome microdeletion. So both the kids got that from either me or dad. We never got tested to find out It's not important. So I had completely forgotten that they had found this microdeletion. And this microdeletion presents with mostly behavioral problems, schizophrenia, ADHD, ADD, autism, a long list of things. And so my husband had to be the one to remind me that he had the microdeletion. And so that started our journey in narrowing it down. You know, by the time he hit kindergarten, we had to take him into a neuro to have his diagnosis narrowed down. And that's when it was presented as ADHD, depression, which they say is usually because of unmanaged ADHD, and failure to enjoy things that are usually fun. I've never heard that diagnosis until him. Yeah, so that was the whole thing in getting both the kids their diagnosis. Yeah.
So as you shared CJ's journey into kindergarten, did Phoenix ever venture to kindergarten and having the same transition, or what was her transition like in terms of that?
So for Phoenix, I think because we're in a smaller community, Phoenix, she set up a lot of firsts in that, for example, the school district did not have something set up for before kindergarten. So the community has a birth to 3 program, and they set up all the therapists, the speech therapists, physical, occupational, all of that. When the kids get to 3 years old, they're handed over into the school system. However, children here don't start school until they're 5 and 6 years old. So there's that gap in between. The school here doesn't have a pre-K program, but our daycare center, and I hate to call them a daycare center because they're way more than that. Our our center here, they have a system that is set up that takes them through actual schooling from 3 years old up until 5 and 6 when they can go into kindergarten. So with the school not having a system set up, they were not exactly sure on how to provide services for her in that 3-year-old to a 5 and 6. Phoenix was the first year that they collaborated with the center to provide a service where the teachers from the school would come to the center, give the special needs kids all their classes that they needed there, and then they could spend the rest of the day, you know, they're there for half day for schooling, and then they could spend the rest of the day at the center doing regular things with all the other kids. Thankfully, also, the Children's Center, they were hands-on. They were ready to learn how to suction her, how to care for her in an emergency. And the best part is that I lived just across the parking lot from the Children's Center. We would always joke that if there's ever an emergency, I promise I can make it there before the ambulance does. So that transition was amazing. However, this is where I learned that not everything is set out in a red carpet fashion for you when you become a special needs mom. I found that the strength it takes to fight for these kids is astronomical. So the school, for example, when we went to our first IEP meeting, they told me that they can only provide, or they would only provide 45 minutes of school per week for my daughter. No, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know who can learn anything in 45 minutes for the entire week. Like, that's it, 45 minutes alone for the entire week, for a person with special needs. So that was the first time I realized, listen, you need to take all the strengths you learned from growing up in the ghetto back home and put it into this, because they need to know that that's not going to work. That doesn't work for anybody. So that was my first fight. And we, with a lot of help from human services, a lot of help from the advocates, I learned all that I needed to come back at the school and say, well, that doesn't benefit anyone. So that was our first fight. We won that, and it became that she would get half days of school for 4 days a week, um, going into the system. So then from there, the fight became a little bit easier on her side. For my son, on the other hand, part of the reason that we had to have the diagnosis narrowed down, taken to a neuro, and have the diagnosis narrowed down, is because the school system, he entered the school system already with an IEP. He went to the same center like my daughter, handed over at 3 years, and then into the school system at 5 years old. Um, they he had his IEP going in, and for whatever reason, nobody would stick to that IEP. They wouldn't provide him his aid for as long as I wanted them to. I wanted him to have an aid for the entire day. They didn't provide that. They also would tell me that, he's hiding under the desk at school. He's not having a good time with the transitions. And all of these things were already listed in his IEP, and how to help him with these things was listed in the IEP. It took half a year to get his diagnosis of the ADHD, depression, failure to enjoy things that are usually fun. And then from there, we had agreed that he would repeat kindergarten because he started at 5, so he would have been fine. School year was about to begin again, and I send out emails, and I'm getting ready for school. I realize he's registered for first grade. And I say, well, that's not what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be repeating kindergarten. Everybody stopped responding to my emails. Everybody stopped responding. And I was like, what is going on? It took the would-be first grade teacher, which was a former teacher of Phoenix's, helping me to get everybody to respond. Then it took endless amounts of IEP meetings again, because they kept telling me no, he shouldn't be repeating kindergarten, and having them make me jump through a bunch of hoops, which included having him reevaluated by the school psychologist. I mean, he was already diagnosed by a neuropsychologist. The school psychologist it doesn't make sense. He had to be reevaluated. He had to be retested, a whole bunch of stuff. He had to go through a week of first grade before they finally decided, okay, sure, I guess he should repeat kindergarten. So the things I've learned so far with this is that, if you don't open your mouth and let your voice be heard and not care what they think of you afterwards, you're going to get walked all over, and your children are not going to benefit. And being in a predominantly white neighborhood, I've always hated the ideology of angry Black woman. So it pains me to be angry and mad and loud at these people. But honestly, if I don't, it's not going to work at all.
Oh wow, I tell you, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking of strength and inspiration. And as I was sharing with Georgina before we came on set, that recently I've been in the school system, and while I was in Jamaica, the school I was working at, we had a special education unit, and I've always been an advocate. I've always, had that. It was just something in my heart when you see them and you know that they're different. And what I like, and she mentioned it today too, that, and we know even from Jamaica, Georgina, that when people have special needs children, it's like a dead deal, a doom. It's like, okay, you're going to take care of these children for the rest of your life. They're not going to be educated. You just keep them home, hide them under the bushel, and that's it. And that is what I like. And that is why I think and I believe that I'm an advocate, because it's not so. It's not so. They are human, they're individuals, they're lovable, and they're able to be loved, and they have so much love inside. And just for us to understand that it's different. And while I at the school I was working with in Jamaica, we had children with special needs, but it was mild. And I remember there was a time I thought there was a school that was in the same community that I decided that I wanted to see. I wanted to go visit just to see what the kids there were like. And I went. And I was even sharing with her too that no, I'm working with exceptional children. No, and I met her a few months ago, and I'm telling you, she has been an inspiration. Seeing her with her daughter, I tell you, every time I go over to Instagram and I see that status, I have to send some heart and all of those things. And I saw one at the time when she wasn't doing so well, and I was like, oh my God, what's happened to my baby? And I had to message and check up to say how is Phoenix doing, and she said, okay, she's doing much better. And I said, yes, she's just full of life and personality and hugs and kisses. And I tell you, and I tell you, Georgina, you are just so strong. But I want you to tell us today where you think you get that strength. Is there ever a time when you break down? I hear you talk of your husband so much. I don't know if his family is near to you too. I know your family is far away. How far? What's the flight? What's the flight hours from where you are to
All the way
Jamaica?
to Jamaica. That's like what, two plane, 4 hours and 3 hours, 7 hours. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like on the other side of the world. So I know your family, they are far, far away. So how is it that you have been coping? What has been your coping mechanism? How have you been dealing? How you keep it together? If there has ever been a time where you know, you have felt as though you couldn't or you can't or you're not managing, and what do you do to pull yourself back up?
So, and everybody means well, and it comes from a beautiful place. But I don't even know how to take it when people say I'm strong. I don't know how to take it. And I try I try every single time to actually take it, hold it there, and know that it's what people see of me, even if I don't see it of myself. So strength. I think I have to say that this all came from how me and my sister were brought up. We did not have the best life. I know I mentioned before, I grew up in the ghetto. Good old Britain in Portmore is where we grew up. Me and my sister, we went through the worst of it, I feel, from abuse, both physically, sexually, the whole works all the way through. And when you've been through what we have been through, you do not have a choice but to tap in and pull strength from any which way you can. Because what's the alternative? Just lay down and dead? Just lay down and die. And you cannot live life like that. So that's where I feel like all of that comes from. Coping, Sam, there are times when Phoenix was younger that I would lock myself in the bathroom and bawl. Just scream and bawl. Because when Phoenix was born, my husband was still working late nights. He would not be home until some 2, 3 o'clock at nights. And, when you come home so late, you need to sleep in the mornings. He's sleeping in. And before her diagnosis, she was just crying nonstop. The girl couldn't breathe and she was always hungry. So she would cry nonstop. And I remember one evening, my husband came home, whatever time that was, 2, 3 a.m. He came home and I was pushing the stroller up and down the driveway up and because it was the only way the baby would be quiet. And I looked at him as he pulled in, so surprised to see me out there. I looked at him and I said, "You have about 10 minutes to go inside and bathe and take this child from me, and I don't want to hear her for the rest of the night." Like looking back, that was so bad, but at the same time, it was what I needed.
Yeah, you needed
Or
that.
else I probably would have thrown the pitney in the bush to all my tired.
Yeah.
Humor, some humor gets me through. If I was not able to laugh at this,
We know you love to laugh.
if I was not able to laugh at this whole thing, I would just die. I remember when she's going through all of her surgeries, her first set of surgeries. Like I said, I tapped out, and it was a whole, it was the first of everything. And I was in the hospital, and she had just come back from her trach surgery. When you have a trach, the kids don't necessarily make vocal sounds anymore because the air isn't passing the vocal cords, so they don't have a voice. So Phoenix was without a voice for the first 9 months of having a trach until she learned how to get the sound around the trach and, project. So when she had just come back from surgery and my baby, her skin looked beautiful because her blood is oxygenated now, her skin looked so perfect and her lips were no longer blue and she just looked amazing. And I remembered playing with her and, she's still under little anesthesia, but she's loopy and she opened her mouth and no sound came out. A ball, so till because I did not hear when the doctor said there'll be no sound when she come back. I had tapped out, I heard nothing. My husband said they told us, and I was like, them never tell me nothing, I never hear that. So, there are times when I don't even know, even know, because they are a lot. Together, they are a lot. My daughter has been through so much that she doesn't like the idea of me being in the same room and not touching her. Like, she needs to be touched all the time by me. Daddy won't do, it's me. And then my son, no, when he was younger, he didn't like to be touched at all. And now he is on me. Both of the children, my daughter sleeps in her own room, but somebody has to sleep with her. So we take turns. I sleep in the bed with her earlier in the night, and then we switch, me and my husband, and he goes and sleeps with her later on. I can't sleep without sleeping pills. And even with sleeping pills, I still don't get a good night's sleep. Because also my son, he doesn't sleep by himself either. So he's in our bed. Me and my husband haven't slept in the same bed in a long time. Might be TMI, but it is what it is.
Love it.
It is what it is.
Yeah, real stuff.
Right. So, when I go to work Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. I tell you, sometimes I'm so happy to go to work. It not even funny how happy I am to be out of the house and away from them. Like I said, humor keeps me going. Exercising keeps me going. Focusing on putting on some lipstick, looking in the mirror and not being in sweats all day long. Putting on some jewelry, put on my pretty lipstick, put on my extra wig, things like that keep me going. You've seen, probably in the last few months, you've seen I have pink ear, purple ear, orange ear.
Yes.
It keeps me sane, it keeps me going,
And those chickens.
Yes, the farm, and Lord help us with all the chicken and goat and the rabbit and the duck them. Having things to do for sure keeps us going.
Awesome. So as I mentioned before, how is your family and his family?
His family, his dad and his mom, his dad is amazing. He will just randomly call us out of the blue and say, you guys need a date night and I am coming over to take the kids. You don't have a time to be home. He is fearless. He'll just come and take both the children. And he doesn't care about suctioning, taking care. Like I come back with backwards diapers on the kids, but I don't care. I'm like,
Yes, Annalise.
and I appreciate leaving the house for a minute. My husband's mom, she loves watching CJ. They're best friends. So she'll take CJ and she'll go, you know, they'll have sleepovers and stuff. Um, so there is that. At least there is that. My family are all back home. We try to do a lot of video chatting and stuff. My dad, pre-pandemic, my dad would always come every other year at Thanksgiving, which is around the same time as my birthday. So I've always appreciated that, having some daddy time. And then pre-pandemic, we would always go to Jamaica whenever he's not here. The last time he was here was 2018, which is also poor thing. He had booked his ticket. You know, you book your ticket long time, and it turns out that Phoenix had her trach removed for a couple of years, and it turns out that that date that he was coming back was actually the date that they were going to put her trach back in. So when he came, he had to, my husband picked him up from the airport, and then the rest of his time was spent in a hospital room with the rest of us while we waited for her to recover from her surgery. But my dad is a trooper. He's like, I don't care, I'm fine, making jokes and all
Yeah.
the nurses and everything. So, you know, it was nice. I have to admit, it was nice having my dad there for that because, he knows only secondhand, really, all the things that we go through. So for him to be there and see firsthand what it's like, it was nice to have him, bond with us that way.
Awesome, I tell you. So tell us how what's a day like with Miss Phoenix? And I don't know if you can give us a short video so we can add it to this so the viewers will see that we ain't making no story up. We're
Right?
talking about a superstar right here. So with the track thing, what was the name?
The
She,
tray.
she she's not verbal, but she manages how to give you. Um, does she
Yeah.
walk?
She so for perspective, her brother is older than her, but she is as small as like a 5 or 6 year old. So she's really small. She hasn't gained weight in a couple of years. I still remember when she turned 30 pounds. We were like, dude, she's 30 pounds. She's only 32 pounds now. That's been like 2 years ago. So she's very small. A typical day, Phoenix likes to sleep in. Her and her dad kind of bond on that. So when I switch in the middle of the night, it's because dad likes to sleep in as well. So they both sleep in until about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. When she wakes up, we usually get her trach cares done. So we clean her trach area, put a new gauze under, normal baby stuff too, change her out of her pajamas and into her day clothes and stuff. And then we tube feed her. She gets these packaged feeds that provides her, it's a plant-based diet and provides her with all the nutrients that she needs. She does eat by mouth. However, it doesn't matter how much she eats all day long. It's never enough for her. They don't know why that is. They haven't been able to find why it is that it's just, not enough to help her to gain weight. And we have additives in her feed that is meant for that to help her to gain weight. But girl, just a little bit. Um, so we tube feed her in the mornings, and then from there we usually, we just hang out. We try to do. She likes to watch her iPad. She love watching Blippi. She love watching Meet the Mitchells of all things, and she will just hang out with us probably for like 15 minutes. But after that, she need mommy to hold her. She need mommy to hold her and she will not take no for an answer. Whereas sounds is concerned, over the years of having a trach, most kids and she learns how to they learn how to kind of bypass the trach to make a sound come through their vocal cords and out the mouth. So she makes her sounds. Her main mode of communication is sign language, though. It's not, what would you say? It's not totally correct American Sign Language, but she gets her point across. And, us and her teachers, they know what she's saying. She's kind of, what would you say, like baby talk in a sense. So instead of dog enunciated like that, she will sign and say dog, dog, you know. When she needs to be feisty though, that don't stop her. She gets her point across. she, she needs the attention. She'll grab your face. Here, look, look. She will get her point across. Um, uh, Middle of the day, usually she gets her lunch or she gets tube fed again, and then at night she gets tube fed again. She, like I said, she loves watching her iPad, so she will watch her iPad for most of the day. She likes it when you just lay on the ground and just let her crawl all over you. Um, she uses a wheelchair. She uses a walker as well. She is not able to walk independently. With Marshall Smith syndrome comes a lot of bone issues. So, for example, they have disharmonious bone growth where the hand or the foot, the bones in that is a lot more, the density is a lot more, and the age itself measures as way older than her actual age. For her, her hips like to pop out of the socket and back in. So it poses a little bit of insecurity with walking. So she uses her walker. Um, and then other than that, if she's not using the walker or wheelchair, she'll crawl or she'll scoot on her butt around, just like a toddler would. Her and her brother, they get along so well. Her brother loves her so much. It's amazing how he just bonds with her. They don't fight. If she has something that he wants, he'll ask if he can have it. Sometimes he will grab it, but if she cries, he's like, Mommy, Phoenix is sad, and he'll give it back to her or whatever. They have an amazing bond. CJ, on the other hand, a typical day with him, for the most part, is very typical, except that there will be, before he was medicated, there'd be times where he would just cry. Nothing makes sense. Nothing helps. He will just cry. He will scream. He will get mad and throw things. Since he started on his medications, that has calmed down tremendously. I don't feel like throwing him out the window most times, like I usually do. It's a lot better now. He's calmer. He gets to show his love more. And that's one of the big things I appreciate about him being on medication. He shows his love. He hugs. He talks nicely. Um, CJ is so afraid of consequences. He listens so well. He will tell you if somebody's not doing something right. He will snitch on anybody. Him not getting in any trouble for nobody. Um, and apart from that, you just really have to plan days. So naturally, I'm a planner. My husband isn't really. He's more spontaneous. With my son, though, you have to have your day lined out. You have to tell him if we're going to leave the house today. You have to start telling him from yesterday that you're leaving the house. This is where you're going. This is what you're going to do. And this is what the end of the day is going to look like. Same with school. He has a hard time if he doesn't know what's coming next. So they have to have visual calendars for him. This is what happens now. This is what happens next. Otherwise, you can see the anxiety rising. He will have tantrums. He will just lose it throughout the day. It's like, for some reason, not knowing what's happening makes a huge deal of panic for him.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Georgina, for sharing with us today. I really, really appreciate you being here and sharing with us. And I can tell you, you are an inspiration. You are an inspiration. And as you're about to leave, I'm going to ask you to just speak to a mother, a family that has a child or children with special needs, special ability. Pour into them, share with them how they can make it, how to keep it together, encourage them as we get ready to close.
One huge advice I got when I started this journey from another special needs mom was you have to take some time and grieve. Grieve as if somebody died. Grieve the child that you thought you were going to have. You know, when you're pregnant, you plan, you hope. When this baby came, this is not what you have. So grieve what you thought your life was going to be. Because it's only then that you can wash that off, come anew, step into the light of, okay, this is what I'm handed. Let's do this. Once you do that, you are better able to just accept that this is my life. Take some time and talk. Whether you're going to just talk to yourself in the bathroom, whether you're going to talk to your partner, whether you're going to talk to complete strangers online, talk. It helps so much. Even if you're not making sense to yourself, speak. Find things that bring you joy. Find things that, if it's just sitting down and coloring in a coloring book, do it. Don't let anybody make you feel bad for taking time for yourself. Don't make anybody feel like you're being less than human if you're doing that. Take time out, whether it is that you lock the door with the picnic of them in there screaming and crying, take time out by yourself to just stand in the sun, to just do something all on your own. The journey, I don't feel like it ever gets any easier. You just learn to cope and you learn to figure it out. And when people offer to help, take it. Don't act like you're the strongest thing in the world. No, baby. If somebody say, I can come and watch them for you, say, okay, let me pencil you in. Can you be here at 5 o'clock? Okay, take it. Nobody else will be a perfect mom. Nobody will be a better mom than you are to your children. So don't expect perfection from other people when they're watching your kids for you or if they offer to watch your kids for you. Take the opportunity.
Wow, just profound. It's so profound. I'm inspired. You're an inspiration. Thank you so much, Georgina, for being here and for sharing your powerful and inspiring journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is huge. Thank you so much, Sam.
Good news. Just one more highlight of a story partnership.
And they were just been doing friends for 20 years and, they've known that.
The two met in college, playing for the University of Connecticut. For 2 decades, they traveled the world together,
I see it.
keeping each other laughing along the way.
There's a charisma about me. She makes you feel like $1 million.
Their historic run ends here, with Sue hanging up her Team USA jersey. For the relationship is forever.
Thank you again, viewers. Thank you so much for watching. And I tell you, I'm inspired, and I know you're going to be inspired. Thank you. Leave your comment in the comment section and let us know how you feel. Remember to share with someone, let them know, be an advocate, share with someone so that they can be inspired too. Thank you again, and have yourself a blessed day, a blessed evening, a blessed night, whatever. And take care now. And bye bye. Bye bye.